Hey kids, good morning. What's happening? It's a pleasant morning, but it's warming up already. Come on up on the deck here and grab a seat here next to my produce. Look at the size of those zucchinis. Anyway, boy, do I have a story for you today. You know, I've been doing these YouTube videos for many, many years. I can't even remember when I started. And some of my earlier videos aren't even posted anymore. But I think it goes back to, I don't know, I don't remember. Anyway, in that time, I've had a lot of viewers that have wanted to do stuff with me, that have wanted to go on rides with me, that have wanted to have coffee with me or share a beer. Even guys that wanted to go camping with me. Once in a great while, I've taken up some of those offers. But I've kind of veered away from that now. You watch my videos, you know me intimately, but I have no idea who you are. So when I'm meeting up with strangers, I don't know what I'm up against. Like, I don't know you. Other than seeing your comment, I don't know what you look like. I don't know what your personality's like or anything. So, but, that being said, I have my own social network of tight friends that I've had for many years, and I'm comfortable with them. I trust them. I know them. We do stuff together all the time. So that's pretty much where I hang now, and I'm not real eager to run out and meet a bunch of new people. It just adds to my schedule, which is already between family and friends. And getting things done here around the yard and stuff. I'm a pretty busy man. So anyway, I've got a story for you today. Unbelievable story. But it really happened just a couple weeks ago. And I thought, well, I got to share it with you guys today. But I had a guy from a YouTube acquaintance that he's been asking me all summer to meet up with him. He rides, and I've just kind of been like always something else on my agenda where I can't do it. So anyway, he said, hey, there's an event up at the local Harley Davidson dealership, and it's called I Can't Afford to Go to Sturgis Party. And he said, what do you think? I'll meet you up there. And we can kind of hang out up there. And I said, I wasn't doing anything that day. And I said, yeah, okay. I'll see you there. So it was a Saturday, and probably around noon or something, I don't remember. And I rode over there to the local Harley Davidson dealership. Well, I've been to their parties. I don't know what your Harley dealerships are like, but when they host like a party, our dealership has a band in the gazebo. Sometimes they'll have food trucks, or they'll serve free food. They'll cook their own burgers or brats or hot dogs or something like that. Sometimes they even have free beer. They'll give you a voucher, and you're allowed to have 2 beers. And I think they're those smaller cans like Coors Light or something like that, because they don't want to intoxicate anybody riding on a motorcycle, so they keep it light. They also have other vendors set up out in the parking lot and whatnot. Sometimes they'll even serve the stuff indoors, especially in the winter season. So anyway, I take my fat boy and I wheel into the parking lot. There's only like 12 motorcycles in the parking lot. There's no vendors, there's no food trucks, there's no band in the gazebo. It's just like any other day, and I'm thinking, what the heck? So I pull my phone out and I pull up the website, and sure enough, it says today is supposed to be that can't afford to go to Sturgis Party. So I sat there on my bike for a while, and I'm waiting, for this guy to show up, and he doesn't show up, and I'm waiting and waiting. So I go inside, and I thought, well, maybe they got something going on inside here. And I walk into the showroom, and it's just like any other day. There's no band in there. There's no food in there. And I walk back to where the clothing section is, and the events coordinator works back there at that counter. So I walk up to her and I said, hey, I thought today was the can't afford to go to Sturgis party. And she said, oh yeah, today's the day. I said, well, where's the food trucks? Where's the band? Where's the free beer? The hamburgers, hot dogs? And she laughed. She goes, oh, not today. We have a table over here with a raffle you can sign up for and make a donation, and that goes towards, St. Jude's or whatever. And that's our thing for today. And I said, that doesn't sound much like I can't afford to go to Sturgis party. Besides, I said, the title of your party, I can't afford to go to Sturgis. I said, it makes me feel like a degenerate because, I can't afford it. I'm broke. I said, I could afford to go to Sturgis. I just don't want to. And she chuckled, and she said, well, no, that's it over there. So I thought, well, that's a bust, but maybe my buddy will show up here anyway. So I go back outside and I'm loitering around and I don't see him. I go back inside, and finally one of the young sales guys, long-haired kid by the name of Dylan, he walks up to me and he says, what are you here for today? And I said, well, I'm supposed to be meeting a friend here and I don't know where he is. I said, he's supposed to be here a half hour ago, and I've been kind of loitering around waiting for him. And he said, did you ride up? And I said, yeah. And he said, what'd you ride? I said, a 99 Fat Boy. He said, is it out there? I said, yeah. He said, can I look at it? I said, yeah, sure. So we walked out in the parking lot. He says, I used to be a mechanic, a motorcycle mechanic, and I crushed my hand, and I can't grab hold of a wrench anymore to use it. So they put me in sales, which he said is at least I still have a job, So he said I was fortunate enough. And so we're looking at the bike, and I said, yeah, I wrecked the bike way back in the early 2000s, and I said I got ran off the highway, and I said the only thing to save my life is I cried out, for Jesus to help me. And for some way, miraculously, I survived the accident, which would have been lethal for me. Yeah, anyway, that was my story. I didn't go into a lot of details on it, but I told him a little bit about what happened. And he said, my life was spinning out of control about a year ago. And he said I was getting really down to a dark place at the bottom of the barrel, and I didn't know where to go. And he said, you know what, I turned my life over to Jesus, and things have completely turned around for me, and life is great. And I was just kind of shocked for a minute, and I said, wow. I said, well, you know what, it takes a lot of guts to profess that, and to tell people about that. But I said, I appreciate that, and I understand where you're coming from, because I said, my story's pretty much the same. And so we had a good conversation out there in the parking lot. And there wasn't a lot of people there buying bikes, so he was just trying to kill time, and that getting out of the showroom out into the parking lot kind of kept him out of the eyeball of the store manager too, So anyway, we go back inside where the air conditioning is on. And he says, if you could have any one of these bikes, which one would you like? And I said, I don't know. I said, I'm pretty happy with my Fat Boy. But I said, before my wife passed away, we always wanted an Ultra. And we had shopped for them, we had looked for them, but we never pulled the trigger on one. And he said, well, come on down here. I got 2 Ultras I can show you. And I said, whatever. So we go down and look at them. And the one was just a beauty. It looked like it was right off the showroom floor. Loaded, ultra limited. And he says, go ahead and sit on it. Nah, I don't want to see. He goes, go ahead and sit on it. I'm not going to hurt anything. Sit on it and get to see what it feels like. So I sat on it and I tipped it up, and he held the bike, and he goes, put your feet up on the floorboards and see what it feels like. So I did that. And then I climbed off the thing, and he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, that's nice, but," I said, "Nah, I can't afford that." He said, "Well, how much you think I'm asking for that?" I said, "At least 25, if not 30." And he said, "No. What would you think if I offered you 16? I said, "For this Ultra?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, I said, "That's a lot of money." I said, "That's a good deal." But I said, I still, nah. I said, so I said, "I'm going to go back out and look for my buddy." So I went back out in the parking lot, and I was kind of loitering around out there, and there wasn't really anybody else there to hang out with or anything. Well, after about 15 minutes, he comes pulling out of the showroom on this Ultra, and he pulls it around. He pulls it right up next to my bike, and he says, "I just wanted you to see tit for tat, the difference between your bike and this bike." And I said, "Yeah, okay, cool." Well, he goes back in. He comes back out with a helmet, and he throws me the helmet, and he goes, "Put the helmet on, because we require a helmet if you're going to take it for a ride." I said, "Nah, I'm not taking this thing for a ride." And he goes, "Yeah, you are. Take it for a ride." So I put the helmet on. I got on the bike. I said, "All right, I'll take it for a little ride." And he goes, "You take it for a ride, we'll give you a $100 voucher for anything in the store," and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I took it for a little ride. About 10, 15 minutes around Medina, and brought it back to the dealership, parked it. He goes, "What do you think?" I said, "Yeah, it's a lot of bike." I said, it's way heavier than my bike, a little more than I expected, but it handles great. It's got, power to spare, and but I said, it's loaded. It's got so much stuff on it. I said, it's almost confusing. I don't know what any of these buttons, levers, controls are. So he says, "What do you think about the price?" I said, "I can't afford it, so thanks anyway." So he says, I'm going to have you talk to the financial representative here." So I said, and he goes, "It won't hurt. It'll only take 5 minutes, and see if he can give you a better offer." So I go in the office there, and I sit down across from the guy. He introduces himself, shakes my hand, Jesse. And he says, "So you're interested in the 2014 Ultra Limited CVO?" I said, "Well, that's to be determined." Yeah, he goes, "That's a beautiful bike, beautiful bike." He said the guy that owned it is a stand-up dude. We all know him. He's had it in here for every single service. He's got all the service records with it. He's done upgrades to it. I mean, it's a beautiful bike, and it's in perfect condition. It runs great. It's like brand new. And he leans back in his chair, and he says, "So what do you want to give me for it?" I said, I thought you were asking 16 for it." And he goes, "Yeah, that's what I have it on the floor for. But what are you going to give me for it?" And I'm sitting there thinking for a minute, and I thought, well, I really can't afford this thing, even though it's priced pretty decently. So I'm going to lowball him. I'm going to just throw out a lowball number. And so I do. And he goes, "Okay." I said, "Okay." He goes, "Yeah, sure." I said, "Are you serious?" He goes, "Yeah, you want the bike, don't you?" I said, "Well, for that price, yeah. You're pulling my leg, right?" And he goes, "No." He goes, "You want me to write up the papers for you?" I was shocked. I was literally shocked. And I said, "Well, yeah, go ahead. You write me up." And so that was that. So really no words are needed. It's a beautiful bike. It's got the custom paint on it. Got a lot of extras on it. Totally loaded. I'll do a review of it in another video. I haven't really ridden it a whole lot yet, but I'm going to take it out today for a ride. Just trying to get used to it, because it's a little different than mine. It handles a little different. Much heavier bike, of course, with the tour pack on here and the heavier fairing on the front. But it's a beautiful ride. It rides really smooth. It handles really well. As far as all the bells and whistles on it, I'm still learning. I mean, you know, there's just a whole bunch of controls here. There's a whole bunch of controls here. There's stuff down here. There's controls all over the bike for different functions, which I'm learning. I'm slowly learning them. I pulled the owner's manual out, and I spent like 2 hours reading the owner's manual, and I was just like blown away with everything that this bike has on it. So, yeah, there you go. Finally got my Ultra that I've talked about for years, and it's a beauty. I mean, the thing is super, super clean. There's not a speck of dirt on it. It's got a ceramic finish on it. It's just a real pretty bike. Got the Reinhardts on it. I've already done a bunch of work to it to adjust the foot controls, the passenger foot pads had to be moved back because they were hitting my ankles every time I tried to back up, you know, with my legs. But I think I got everything set to where it's comfortable for me now. The seat's quite a bit different, you know, more of a saddle, lumbar support there. So, yeah, there you go. That's my story for today. I bought a Harley. So now I'll be back making car payments again, I guess, you know. But I'm happy with it. And I'm convinced that if I didn't like it, I could probably turn around and sell it for exactly what I paid for it, if not even a little more. Anyway, I still love my fat boy. I'm not going to abandon her. She'll probably get a little more dust on her than normal because I think I'm going to really like this thing. But, you know, there's a time and a place for one or the other. Well, cats, thanks for joining me today and listening to my story. Yeah, it really happened. And I'm praying for many safe, wonderful adventures down the road. Where it'll take me, I don't know. I haven't even thought about that yet. My head's still spinning from all of this. If not anything else, it looks great in my garage, doesn't it? All right, cats, thanks for joining me. If you liked the video, hit me with that like button. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe and continue on with this adventure. And like I said, in an upcoming video, I'll go over the whole thing and do a review and show you everything it has on it. Till next time, cats. I'll catch y'all later. Oh, by the way, my YouTube friend, he never showed up. Texted me later and said that he had fallen asleep.